Hello, hello, hello. So I I offered to do some tapping, and I'm gonna read. I'm keeping this private, so you can people's privacy is kept here, and I hope this helps other people as well. So I asked someone who's waiting for results on something. What might be going on for them, and offered to do some tapping. So I'm going to read what this person wrote, and we're just keeping confidentiality here, and hopefully this helps someone else. So what I got was, hey Marty, I had an endometrial tumor in 2016 with so what happened is sadness. She started to feel sadness because my sister and best friend of life left to live abroad. So think about, there's grief right there. Two people near and dear to you have left, like call it your support system. And even though you can still talk to them, FaceTime, Zoom, whatever it is, that's a loss, and it's a huge loss, and it's like a double hit. So it's a double hit to us. There's grief that's going on there. So of course we would feel sadness because it's that loss of close proximity, close contact. So there's just so much here. Hey, Marcia, happy you're here. See, that's who I can, it looks like a few people are here. So that's the first thing I see is the loss, the grief of these two people near and dear to me have left. So you want to tap through that, the loss, the grief over that. So since 2015, I miss her too much, even talking every day and every time. So when they're even talking. So this is what I would say about any of this. So I use myself as an example. So when my sister passed, you all probably know this story by now. We thought we were going to lose her in March of that year. And we're all like standing over her, like weeping, sobbing, because we're like, she's leaving. Well, true to form with my sister, all of a sudden, I mean, we're just like holding her hand, and all of a sudden her eyes pop open. What's going on? And we're literally like, what? So we went through this huge grieving process in that moment. When my sister stuck around, entertained us till September, like of that year. So we had all this time knowing what was coming to prepare for that. So that was when she actually finally transitioned. Yes, it was heartbreaking. I was filled with sadness and all that. But I'd had this time to grieve, where in March, when we got this shocking news, like they go, call your sisters, get them here, get them to fly in. Like I was there in St. Louis with her, and the nurses are like, call your sisters, get them here now. We literally were preparing for that end. So the shock of that, the time is now. And that's similar to what you go through when two people, you might know they're leaving, but all of a sudden they leave, and the shock to the system that happens. And that's why you want to tap through that, this shock to my system. Oh my God, I'm left here alone. So let's do that, and I'm going to keep going through this. Even though I had the shock to my system, I may have known they were going. But now they're gone. And I'm left with this sadness and left with this grief. I choose to honor my truth right now. Even though I had this shock to my system, my support system is gone. And I feel abandoned and lost and trapped. I choose to honor this truth right now. Even though I feel morally obligated to stay here. My friend and my sister took care of themselves. They left. And I feel morally obligated to stay. I choose to honor my truth right now. So I'm tapping always with what's coming to me. So if it doesn't fit, just change my words. I bet I feel a little resentful. They took care of themselves and left. My sister certainly took care of herself and left. She tells me to go. But it's triggered this part of me that feels morally obligated to care for my mother. What will happen to my mother if I go? So I might feel a little resentful. Maybe I don't. But what if the most important thing here right now is to start to soften and free myself from obligation, from the energy of obligation. I can go if I want, and I can stay. And what if I keep choosing to stay? I can free myself from feeling obligated. What if that can make all the difference? As I free myself from this oppressive obligation, I feel obliged to stay and take care of her. That energy sucks me dry. No wonder I'm having physical symptoms. I feel trapped in this obligation. What if I can be free of this obligation? And then from that freedom, I can choose to go if I need to. And what if I go, divine providence opens up for me and ways for my mother to be cared for have the space to come, because I've freed myself from this heavy, oppressive obligation. Or what if I choose to stay? But it's switched from feeling obligated and trapped to a choice. A choice I can feel really good about. That I can see in an entirely new way. And what if divine providence comes into my experience again? To guide and support me through this journey of caretaking in a way that fills me up to fullness, in a way that I can see it so differently. And what if either way this goes, I am free. And what if that makes all the difference? And what if I notice physical things start to feel released? I don't have to believe this yet, but I sure like the idea that this could be possible. As I start to soften and release this idea that I'm obligated, I'm trapped. And what if amazing possibilities open up to me that I haven't been able to see? Because I've been draped in this cloak of oppressive obligation. And what if this changes everything for me? So take a breath. So again, I just go with what comes. I was sitting on my feet there and I had to get off them now. So this is what I see is I'm going to read the rest of this now. So since 2015, I miss her too much, even talking every day. So you've got this grief that's going on. Hey, Nicole. Hey, Ruth. Love those pictures of you and your girls, Ruth. They're so heartwarming. And she will not come back to live here as she doesn't like this area. I can't live close to her or in another place. I am stuck morally taking care of my mother. And that's so oppressive. I trapped, I'm stuck. I feel morally obligated. Like I just feel like the freaking, like I'm just exhausted even thinking about it. It's like, that's just energy. And again, I'm not saying, oh, get up and go, throw caution to the wind and trust it's all going to work out. You could. But what I would say is you don't have to do anything right now other than start to soften this obligation. I mean, obligation sucks. It sucks us dry. I mean, we're taught this. There's so much with morally. I love that word, morally, and obligation. I mean, it sucks. It's so oppressive. And I do not believe that a force of love that runs everything wants us to feel obliged, sucked dry by obligation. But what you can do is start to soften that, tap through, I'm morally stuck, I'm morally obliged. No, I'm not. What if I am? No, I'm not. I have to take care of it. Who will if I won't? I would argue tap the heck out of that. I'm morally stuck. What if I'm not? I'm morally obligated. What if I don't have to be? I'm morally obligated. No, I don't have to be. That's tied to some belief. I'm going to read the rest here. We both live together in one house, each on separate floors, but her dependence is too tough. Although my sister says I'm the one who's emotionally dependent on her. I don't know. I don't know that. Could be. I don't know. If that's true, that's the kid. Somewhere in your background, you learned to feel that like I'm emotionally dependent. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. Maybe it's flip-flop. But my gut is you learned, doesn't mean I'm accurate. I've always got to give my disclaimer. You learned at an early age that the roles got flip-flop with your mom, that now you're the one that has to take care of her. You're obliged to take care of her. Somewhere along the way, you became the mother. And I don't know where your birth order is. Doesn't mean you have to be the oldest. I'm the youngest, and I still, again, feel so much obligation. And I felt so obligated to my parents in different ways. So somewhere it got flip-flop for you, and it's like, I'm obliged to take care of her. And the truth is you're not. It's an energy like vacuum. But it's like not just throw caution to the wind and go, well, like, screw it, I'm getting out of here too. I don't think that would feel good for you. At all? I don't get that. But like just to start to unhook from, I'm not obligated here. No, I'm not. I know I feel that way, but I don't have to be. What if I could see this differently? What if I'm actually making a choice? And again, free the oppressive part of obligation. I mean, I can't tell you how much obligation sucked. Okay, as our father died at 51, and I couldn't bear staying with him when he was sick, I feel I have to be hooked on my mother as she can't live by herself here in this big house. A very dangerous place to be an old woman living alone. There's just so much here. I mean, that in the dangerous place, and I would say, this is what's coming. Forgiveness of self, to tap on forgiving yourself. Your child self, I don't care how old you were when your father passed, your child self couldn't be with him. Your child self couldn't. So that's when, look at that picture of your little girl. You're watching your father die. That's pretty much every child's nightmare. I don't care how old you are. So you're this young woman whose little girl gets activated when her father dies. And that little kid is like, I can't be here. This is more than I can bear. And that little child in you needs love and forgiveness. She couldn't do it. It was overwhelming to her. But we hang on to the guilt, especially depending on if you were raised in a religion, like, well, you should have been there for them. There's no space for, no, my kid was terrified. She could not do that. She couldn't do it. And I really believe that's who needs your love and forgiveness, is the little girl in you is like, I can't stay here with him. I cannot watch this with my father. It's devastating to me. If you saw a little girl having to try to force herself to be there when a parent is dying and can't do it, I doubt you'd go, really? You can't do that? Like, what's wrong with you? I believe you would lead with compassion, but we learn to be unkind to ourselves. We learn to pummel ourselves. We learn to come down on ourselves for like, I can't do this. So this is what I see here too, is forgiveness of self. And I truly believe as you work towards forgiving yourself and tap through forgiveness, like, I was doing the best I can. And that is the truth. Now that's just intellectual to you right now. You literally did the best you could back then, given where you were at, your child being activated, your father dying. You did the best you could. You did. And you just need to communicate that to that little child. And you, baby, you did the best you could. Sweetie, you did the best you could. That was terrifying for you. I think that's going to free up so much energy from you. It's huge. And then you'll find, and then think of that, the obligation. Oh my God, if I leave my mother here by herself, it's so dangerous. I mean, I could kill my mother. What a burden to have to carry around. And I would tap through that as well. Like, let's do it right now. This is such a dangerous place. Talk about feeling even more obligated. My sister could leave. I don't know if she's looked back or not. She is taking care of herself. And I love her, but I'm kind of resentful. She left. I feel so stuck and trapped here. And what if, as I learn to forgive myself, to forgive my inner child, who was so activated when my father passed, that part of me just couldn't be there. She was too overwhelmed and terrified. And I want to let this part of me know now. You did the best you could. This is not your fault. you didn't have the skills to be there. It was too devastating. There's nothing to forgive here. I know you don't believe this yet, but there's nothing to forgive here. You did the best you could. And as you start to feel this forgiveness, what if this heavy burden of obligation starts to melt away? And what if it creates the space for incredible possibilities to open up? What if perfect solutions are being lined up right now as I free myself from this guilt, this burden of obligation? What if, out of no how and no way, a way can be made as I learn to forgive this part of me that did the best she could? So take a breath. It's just so, it's so huge. I grew up Catholic, like the guilt and shame was epic. And I may have told this story one time. I remember one time one of my sisters saying to me, "You're so disrespectful to mom and dad. You're supposed to honor them." And I don't know how I knew this back then. Like, I had a long way to go after this. I was probably still tuned in at some point. And I go, don't they need to behave honorably? Like, I don't see them as behaving honorably. Why am I supposed to honor someone who is not behaving honorably? Just what, because the Bible tells me so? That might trip people's triggers. But I woke up to that nightmare of like, wait a minute. I'm supposed to honor people that aren't behaving in an honorable way? And it's, what I would say about it, it's all these cloaks that were put on us, like, I should have been able to be there for my father. I couldn't have. That kid in me was activated and so freaking terrified. And when we start to unhook from just the burden, the moral compass of oppression, it starts to free us up. So true, Marty. Constantly nightmare, right? Right. It's like a freaking nightmare. We walk around and it's like we start to wake up and go, wait, what? What have I was terrified all the time as a Catholic girl. Because one minute God loved me and the next minute I was going to be burning in the eternal fires of damnation for the smallest offense. And it was like, what a terrifying thing for my nervous system to live through. So whatever it is for us, you don't have to be Catholic to have this moral obligation. And the other thing that I would say is, I don't know about you guys, but my parents were pretty clear on how babies are born and like how that happens and what you have to do to create that. And I look at that with my daughter and my stepdaughter. I'm like, they're not obligated to take care of me. I know that can be a cultural thing. If we want to do it, if we desire to do it out of a place of like inspiration, no, I'm up for this. I want to do this. That's a very different energy than I've got to do this out of obligation, because people know that energetically, that we're doing it out of obligation. And you might have a parent that's like, because they were trained to use guilt and shame to get you obligated because that's what was done to them. So they don't know any better. So they're going to put that on you. But to me, the key here is the self-forgiveness and to start to unhook from the belief that you're obligated to take care of her. And I'm not saying anything's like you might, my gut is you're going to be like, no, I now I can do this and I want to do it in a better way. But I think incredible things are going to come your way that you can't see right now as you start to release that. All these solutions can come that will just open up to you because you freed yourself. And I also think, I truly believe your health can have a very different outcome. It's so funny. I choose to trust just popped up. I have this little app that I love. And that just popped up. I was like, there's a message. I choose to trust. Now, what if I could choose to trust? What if I can learn to trust? All right, I want to read. My sister said, I already live in hell, but not living the life I wanted because I'm responsible to my mother since I was a kid. And that's it. Oh my God, before I even... Yeah, somewhere along the way, you learned that you had to be the parent to your mother. You hooked in and felt so so obligated. The roles got flip-flopped. It's like instead of your mom doing her job as a mom and taking care of you, and she didn't know how. We know that. She wasn't taught that. But you get to have your truth about it. You get to start to unhook from, no, this got flip-flopped. I feel responsible, but this is a really different way to do this. So I hope you found this helpful. To whoever, whenever you see this, the person that wrote this in, this is just filled with so much richness. It's like a Grand Canyon of tapping. And I really think as you tap through this, possibilities open up and health can shift and all of that. So thank you for being vulnerable and sending this. And God knows I've had some of this going on myself at different times in my life. Oh my God, me too. She always said I was the responsible, right? Oh my God. It's exhausting being the responsible one. I was always a responsible one too, even the youngest. So overly freaking responsible as the youngest. It was crazy. I choose to trust. Great. Yeah, a little message. So anyway, that's it. I know this was probably pretty long, but I wanted to cover this here. So again, hope you found this helpful. And whenever you watch this and see this, and thanks for sending it in. Okay, bye everyone. See you next time.